Okay, so we make a siyum tonight on Hilchos Nida. So we have Hilchos Tefillah, Simin Kuf Samach Beis, Sif Yud Beis. So be'inyan hatfila b'naharas, toiveling in a river. Now this is a very, very summer shaila. Lots of people go on vacation and they forget to toivel their stuff. And Tfilas Kalim is the same dinim as Tfilah for a woman. At least if the utensils are deraisa. So the question is, are all these bodies of water, man-made lakes, streams, etc., are they all kosher for a mikvah? A swimming pool is not kosher for a mikvah, that's for sure. For men to go on a Friday, yes, that's kosher. All right. So now the big difference to know with whether it's kosher or not, and this is like one of the big confusions in Yiddishkeit. I mean, it's only a confusion because people don't learn the sugya. But basically, water on a mayan or a spring, that's when it's flowing, it's still a kosher mikvah. Rainwater cannot be used unless it's stationary. If you have rainwater that's moving, then you're not allowed to. Then it's no good. So you could have gathered rainwater in a mikvah if it's moving because there's a leak in it in the mikvah, let's say, which is a big problem in mikvahs because the mikvah could leak. Or there's, let's say, some want to say that a filter in a pool, even for men, makes the water move. So that's a problem. But in a river, it's not a problem. A river, ocean is not a problem. Fine. So b'inyan tefillah b'naharos ladas harbi gedolei apais gimzal ein tefillah me'elis b'nahar el zman shu katan kol kach sheyadu b'bir shaloy nesgadol machmas meg shamim le'me'shlagim. Meaning, if you wanna travel in a river, so it has to be very small. All right. Meaning it shouldn't be a too wide a river, because then you know that maybe the river is, the reason why it's so wide is because of the melted snow. Right? Or rainwater. Meaning it swells. When it rains, the rivers rise. And that would be no good. Right? They're only matar this man that they're gathered together, like that's from the word mikvah comes from, and they're in the mikvah. Meaning when they're flowing on the ground, then they don't make yitar. But a mei mayan, right, like a spring, that does work even when it's moving, and a spring is actually better than a regular mikvah because it works for all tumas, including zav and zava. When there's no mikvah noigan lahaka v'lismech ala paiskim, Tisfilu Commander Omar, who hold like the Manda Omar, Tafilu, Royim Shanorm Skaldam and Akshamim, even if you see that the river is swelling, that's the word. The river is swelling because of rainwater. The ikr of the swelling of the river is coming from the depths, from the Tahaim. Because when it rains, the air becomes wet, meaning that's humidity. And the sources for the mayonis, they increase and they become stronger. Comes out that the majority of the water in the river is coming from the depths. And the rainwater, which fell into the river or fell on the mountain and is running off the river, that's bottle from Ratan and Gamba Zeichlin, and then Memela it's tar even when it's moving. But if you have a mikvah, then it's chalila to be mekel and to go in a stream. The Gamba mikvah, and even if there's and also in a place where there's no mikvah, in be'asheri yesh lahachmer, then if it's possible, make shamim, that if the river swells to make sham tamtim betfilos a beza gimel yomim at sheyashav leisana, then wait 2 or 3 days until the river goes back to normal. there's also there's another option which I told somebody today about, but it was for kalim, not for people, is that make sure you don't toivel in the edge of the mikveh and in the edge of the stream. Make sure you go to the middle of the stream. Like this, at the middle of the stream is not the runoff rainwater. And it's good if it's possible. That's what I was just saying here. Don't be toivel in the place that gets wider. Only in the parts of the river that you know will always be flowing. Then there it is more makel. All right. There's other problems with toiveling in the mikvah too, especially in an ocean. First of all, there's dirt. The dirt gets stuck in your toes, and you could also be embarrassing to go. And then you're not going to stand proper, like we learned a few days ago. There's a proper way to stand, etc. Fine. Yud Gimel. If you have a river that its whole existence is from the rain, and sometimes it even dries up, which you do. Sometimes you take hikes here upstate. Sometimes you see a riverbed that seems to have dried up. So, and let's say you see water there, so then that's a problem, because the whole thing is from the rain. I'm sorry, I skipped. But when Harshan is out, you have some that it's going to it dries up sometimes, even though even though when it rains, other rivers flow into that river. Sometimes the river stops completely, so then ain't shum heter litba by kashu zeichel. There's no heter to toivel in it when it's zeichel. Right? Unless the river at the bottom of the mountain, let's say, it turns into a lake, and the lake is stationary, then it's okay. Fine. Yud Daled. The dinim of mikvah are numerous. He has to be a rav that's a mumchel rabbin, right? God of a Torah of a Yira, he has to be great in Torah and Yira. Is a shina gadol like cotton, and if something changes, whether small or big, yasam yachel you make a shaila right away. And when you have to draw out the water to clean the mikvah, yishalu echis nagu, you have to ask exactly how to do it, because you can mess up the whole mikvah if you don't do it properly. My father once went into a mikvah somewhere unannounced, and there was a plumber there emptying out the bar. He didn't know from any rainwater or sink water. He didn't know anything. Punkti caught him right before it got under the level that it would have been puzzled. And then they asked shilas, and they came out that the mikvah was okay, but it wasn't simple. So you can't have people messing with the mikvah unsupervised. Fine. Next, so once you're done with tefillah, so then the next thing is Mila, if you have a baby boy, right? So Siman Kuf Samach Gimel Hilchos Mila by Ches Seifim. So Aleph mitzvah say alav lamalas benoy. It's a mitzvah say for a father to give a bris to his kid, or lechabed the last shliach liyisrael acher, or to be mechabed, or make another Yisrael a shliach sheyamal say to do a mila on him. V'yesh alav losses is a yelad abirkei asandik, and the father is supposed to put the child onto the sandik's lap, which is what they announce, Avi Abed Liyad Sandik, and then he takes the knife and he gives it to the moil. And the father stands next to the moil during the bris, to show that the moil is a shliach. And in between the cutting and the priya is the cutting back, the rolling back the skin. And Eretz Yisrael, they also make shechionu. And a person should go and look for a moil and a sandik who is a bigger tzaddik. The minig is not to make somebody sandik twice for your kids. And the reason for that is because in the Beis Hamikdash, they only gave one ketores per kohen because it was a school of becoming wealthy. So Mamela, we want to do the same. The sandik is like the mizbeach, but it doesn't mean that it's asa. If you give the cover to one mile, right, you're not allowed to back out and give it to another. Whatever's left of Klal Yisrael is not going to be do bad things. They're not going to speak lies. But if he's mechaber one mile and in the interim the mile goes traveling, and the father thinks that he's not going to come back, the original mile is not going to come back by the zman of the mila. Al kain kibud la'achar, and therefore he's mechaber somebody else. And the first one comes back. Yemaleno Rishon, the first one should get it back. Now, the way the Kitzur says it seems to be talking about only within one child. But it seems like in the Welt, people go with that. Once you pick one mile for your older child, then your subsequent children should also have the same mile. The way the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying it, it doesn't sound like that's the concern. It sounds like the concern is backing out on that particular child. Okay, Beis Noyagin Shakolam Eichetz Amila Imdin. The minig is that anybody by the Mila stands up, Shenemar Vayamek Kolam Babris. Vara Sandik, Shatovis Satinik, Ru Yoshev. Except for the Sandik who's holding the baby, he has to sit. Ulacha Sheberachav Lachnisai, Va'anu Amein, Imram Kulam Tishem Shenifnos Avis, Kain Yikonis Atar L'chupel Masim Toiv. Gimel, Hamayel Tzarech Sheyeda Hilchos Mila. The mile, and by the way, some say that you also have to be standing for any mitzvah, like a chuppah. You have to stand. Reb David Cohen is very makbid on this, that he stands for a chuppah, because here for bris, we're saying that you're standing because of the pasuk in Malachim that says that everybody stood up for the bris.
That's why everyone stands on the side.
What, by the bris?
No, by a wedding.
I don't know if that's their reason, but that's why I do it. That's why I do it. But I think most are not noyig like that. And then by a wedding, you have a machlokes whether you stand up for the chassan and kalu when they walk in or not. Right? So if you standing up the whole time, then you don't have that shiloh. Fine. You mean you're supposed to really stand up if you see the halach is if you see somebody collecting tzedakah, you're supposed to stand up for him. Assuming he's legit.
Stand up and run.
That's already too late. You should run before you see him, right? Okay, Gimel Amayel Tzarech Sheyeda Hilchos Mila. The Mayel needs to know Hilchos Mila. The Tzarech Sheyachkar Im Hayeled Hu Bari, and you have to also look in to see if the child is healthy. Gam Lehamiyaledes Yesh Lahazer Mentira Eza Meifresh B'Yoled. The mother, the miyaledes, has to check the baby and see if there's any chashash that there's something unhealthy. She has to let either the doctor or the male know. Dalid. It's very important not to give a bris to a child who there's a chashash that he's sick. Because Sakonas Nefashas Deichas are called Sakonas Nefashas, as we know, is Deicha everything. Because give him a bris later. And you can never take back a nefesh from Yisrael, meaning if you kill this kid, chas v'shalom, right? So then now you're never getting him back. So it's not worth it. You'll give him a bris later. What the halachas are to give a bris to a tinoik who got better. Depending on what the disease is, what the problem is, sometimes you have to wait a week, and if it's just if it's a chayla kol guf, you have to wait a week. But if it's not, then you don't wait. Then you don't have to. And when the tinuk is right to have a bris, also la'akav is a mitzvah is the time you cannot push off the mikvah for whatever reason. Laharba is simcha kadayim, meaning don't push it off because wait till a Sunday because you get more people. Elayom liyad kishu do the bris right away, even if it means nobody being there. Shuvas bar shmuel siman kuv tzadives. Ach loy b'Shabbos loy b'yomtiv commission is bar yeridei siman reish sam above, meaning once the bris is pushed off, then you are not allowed to have the bris on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Okay, we will stop there. Olam should have a fine night. Psudas Toks.